going deep into our library of law enforcement television music.
There is no deep library. This is the only song you need to hear.
This is it.
Everyone can Hey, you hear this song? You know it's about stand-up cops.
There you
know
go.
It's about good law enforcement men.
Sure.
I mean, come on. Frank Poncherello? Frank Poncherello. Come on. That's all I got to... You had a Trans Am. You thought you were Frank Poncherello, didn't you? Or Rockford File. You were a Rockford File guy, weren't you? You were a Rockford File. You used to do the move where you'd slam it in reverse and then whip it around, playing old Rockford.
Not in a 4-speed, I didn't. I didn't do that.
Before you get in this interview, real clarification. Mark Schlagman called in, is like, I have views on comprehensive immigration reform, period.
See, you even got him mad.
I know, I got everybody mad this morning. So, Mark, thank you for listening, but he does have a very good platform for immigration.
Joining us in studio is Major Maurice Langston, with candidate for the Wakulla County Sheriff's Post. And Maurice, good to see you. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on this morning, Preston.
Would you admit publicly to ever watching Chips?
Yes. Starsky and Hutch and a few others, too.
See, there you go.
Man of the people.
I like the man already.
Man of the people.
He is, man.
All right. We were just talking about this campaign is like every other campaign. There's a lot of walking, there's a lot of knocking on doors, but in Wakulla County, knocking on doors takes on new meaning because it's not like a county that has a lot of density. Everybody's spread out in Wakulla County. That's why they live in Wakulla County. How's that going?
It's going really good. As a matter of fact, I'm actually enjoying the opportunity to knock on a few doors, meet new people, answer their questions that they have regarding law enforcement and public safety in Wakulla County. Someone asked me the other day, how is this campaign affecting you? I said, well, other than going door to door, I'm really not doing anything that I haven't always done as a deputy sheriff, as a person. So I'm enjoying it. I really am.
Is there one thing that you're hearing that maybe it surprised you?
One of the things that I think that I'm hearing the most is that they want to be able to know that whenever they call the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office, that we'll continue to send the green and whites out. Trust and integrity within a sheriff's office is deeply important, because if you think about Wakulla County, we're uniquely different. We are the only law enforcement agency in the county that makes house calls. And we pride ourselves in being able to make those house calls and help people in some of the most difficult times that they're going through, and celebrate in their triumphs and help them through their tragedies.
So as you're going door to door, what's the most surprising thing you've heard?
Probably the most surprising thing that I've heard is what's going to be different. What are you going to bring to the table that changes? Well, and I have the opportunity to say, look, I'm a 32-year veteran deputy sheriff. Always been a deputy sheriff. I've worked for 5 different sheriffs. I've worked for Earl Dice in Hendry County. I worked for Bob Durkis in Hendry County. I worked for Bill Taft in Wakulla County. I worked for David Harvey in Wakulla County, and now I have the privilege of working with Donnie Crum. I like them all, but I'm not like any of them. I plan to bring a lot of changes to the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office.
What would they be?
The first thing that I would bring to the county is coactive policing. As a matter of fact, the good part about this, Preston, is I don't have to wait till I'm elected to bring coactive policing to Wakulla County. Coactive policing is a lot like community policing. If you'll remember, prior to September the 11th, 2001, we were receiving all kind of money from Washington, D.C., throughout the state of Florida, throughout the nation, for community policing. And millions of dollars were being funneled into the state of Florida. After September the 11th, 2001, the community policing dollars dried up. So what happened is a new bureau was created in Washington, D.C. called Homeland Security. And so the money started funneling down from Washington, and law enforcement agencies across the nation began forming SWAT teams and dive teams and regional domestic security terrorism task force teams and boat teams. And so basically what happened on September the 11th we left the community policing, and we left our citizens standing on the sidewalk wondering, wow, where did you guys go? But it was one of the best times that we've had in law enforcement in Wakulla County. So I really plan to take us forward by taking a step back. I don't know if you've noticed or not, we don't have a lot of terrorism problems in Wakulla County. So while I was away at the FBI National Academy, I worked on a program called Coactive Policing. It's a lot like community policing, but community policing is a program. Coactive policing is a philosophy. It's a mindset. It's an ideal. And so what I plan to do, and what I am doing right now, is I am implementing coactive policing. And I'm basing it on, it has to start with law enforcement. It has to start with the sheriff's office. Two things, two components, two key columns that everything else stacks up on. One is character, and the other is competence. And that's what we require in our officers. That's the only two things that an officer really and truly has to have to be able to work for my administration, is character and competence. So we start with ourselves. We start with the law enforcement. And on top of those two columns, we build integrity. And integrity, on top of that, is trust. And on top of trust, you have relationships. And on top of relationships, you have coactivity. And on top of coactivity is what everyone is looking for, and that is a peaceful, crime-free county as much as possible.
Joining me in the studio is Maurice Langston, candidate for Wakulla County Sheriff. 16 minutes after the hour. Let's check weather from the Weather Channel.
Our weather pattern essentially remains unchanged, with that possibility of some rain, especially as we get into the afternoon hours. Scattered showers and thunderstorms today, 88 the high. I'm meteorologist Terry Smith from the Weather Channel on WFLA. Talking
with Maurice Langston, candidate for Wakulla County Sheriff, has worked. How long have you worked in Wakulla County?
Since June 1st of 1982. I was interviewed by the sitting sheriff. He brought me in his office. At that time, I had moved up from LaBelle, Florida, where I met and married my wife of 39 years now. And I walked in for my interview with the sheriff, and I told him, I said, look, I have a partner. He said, what kind of partner? I said, he's a four-legged partner. He's a canine. He said, you a handler? I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, well, bring him. He said, I'll hire him too. And actually, as I sat before him, he looked at me and he says, what are your goals? What are your goals? What are your ambitions here at the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office? And I asked him, seriously? He said, yeah, seriously. I said, you're sitting in my chair. I said, but also, please understand that as long as you occupy that chair, I'll never seek it. So when the seat became available and I had the opportunity to run for sheriff, I took the chance. I took the opportunity immediately to run for sheriff.
I think I'm probably a pretty good fit to talk to you, to Charlie Creel, to the superintendent candidates. I told you beforehand, we've got two races in Wakulla that we're entertaining guests.
Yes.
Yours is one, the other is superintendent of education. I think as someone that doesn't live in the county, it's truly the expression of the forest and the trees. I'm outside of all the trees and can look at it, and I don't have a dog in the fight here. So let me ask you a few questions that'll be from a perspective that maybe someone within the county might be uncomfortable asking. Okay. All right? Fair enough?
Absolutely.
As an outsider looking at the totality of the last few years, it would seem as though there is a pretty stark division within the county as it relates to the sheriff's office. The last election, as you well know, was pretty brutal, and so let me just ask a question on behalf of those in Wakulla County. If you're elected, what can you do? First, do you agree with that assessment that there's a division there?
Sure.
And secondly, what can you do as the new sheriff to bridge that?
Well, one of the ways that I plan to bridge it is what I've already talked about. Is I plan to bridge it with our citizens by implementing coactive policing, and let's returning the sheriff's office really and truly back to the people that really are the sheriff's boss. That's the sheriff's boss, the people of Wakulla County, mm-hmm. And he needs to answer to the people. And you know, one of the beautiful things about a sheriff is that he's a chief law enforcement officer of the county, and he is elected every 4 years, which I think is a great thing.
Sure.
And, you know, if he every 4 years you get a report card. Either you're doing a great job or you're doing a very poor job. And a good sheriff will consistently get a good report card.
Would it be fair, and just tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right, would it be fair to suggest that over the last few years, because when you start to talk about that new form of policing, that
coactive policing,
and you talk about integrity, you talk about honesty, I think I can hear the audience from Wakulla County. Some are saying you have to ask them about Sheriff Harvey. You just have to. Would it be fair to say that there is a cloud on that subject over the office at this time that needs to be cleared up?
Well, as far as Sheriff Harvey is concerned, he did some really good things. Did he have some problems there at the end? Yeah. I wish he could have finished stronger than what he did. But as far as his involvement in the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office right now, it is non-existent. We have an interim sheriff, a 35-year veteran sheriff, Donnie Crum, and he is doing an amazing job. He is actually in the process right now of creating a budget that he's not even going to administer. So he has a difficult job, and he's keeping the people in mind as he's developing this budget. At the same time, he doesn't want to negatively affect law enforcement in Wakulla County. So he's getting a few more gray hairs.
Joining us is Maurice Langston, running for sheriff of Wakulla County. 21 minutes after the hour, we'll continue our discussion next. It's the Morning Show with Preston Scott at 100.7 FM WFLA.
A state employee for over 25 years. Judge Joseph.
Winter getting colder.
26 minutes after the hour, a few more minutes with Maurice Langston, candidate for Wakulla County Sheriff, our guest. And you mentioned, Maurice, about the fact that if you're elected sheriff, there's some things you want to do differently. There's some changes you want to bring. Perhaps some efficiencies, different things. We talked about community policing. Tell us a little bit about some other changes you want to bring.
Some of the other changes that I want to bring, and I also got these at the FBI National Academy, as some anti-bullying programs, which is a very important program. I've already talked with Jim Greiner about the possibility of implementing it into the Wakulla County school system, and it was very warmly received.
Do we need you brought it up, my mind just immediately goes to a pet peeve of mine. Do we need bullying laws? Do we need bullying rules? Or isn't that stuff covered by just assault and battery?
Well, some of it is, but now we have this cyberbullying.
True.
And that's not a direct battery.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a verbal assault? Absolutely. So much so that Florida decided to enforce a law, put a Florida statute in place against cyberbullying. As you know, some young people across the country have actually taken their lives because they did not know how to cope, did not know how to deal with that. So,
so bullying is one initiative that you'd be looking at.
Surely.
What would be another?
Well, one of the programs that we have ongoing right now is our school resource officers program. They are a vital part of the education system. They serve as a deputy sheriff, they serve as a counselor, and they also serve as teachers. And it's one of the finest prevention programs that we can be a part of.
Sure.
We see a kid having a difficult time, we can go to that kid and say, hey, pull him aside and say, hey, come here and tell me what's going on. And, if it's above or beyond us, then we can direct them to the counselor, get them the appropriate help that they need. But our school resource officers program has been a great program. One of the most rewarding things that I've done in the past years is the SAVE program, the Substance Awareness and Violence Education program, and we do that with our fifth graders throughout the school system in Wakulla County. So our focus will be on our children, but also what we're doing too, Preston, is that we've teamed up with our Senior Citizens Council. We go over there regularly, and I'll take some detectives and some deputies with me, and we'll go over there and we'll feed them lunch. And at the same time, we'll stand up and talk to them about scams and fraud and schemes that they could very well be contacted about by phone, and teach them, don't give your personal information out over the phone. So I think what I can tell you is this, is that we're going to have programs for our young children, and we're going to have programs for our senior citizens, and we're going to have programs for everyone in between.
How's your budget?
Our budget, we're in a very lean economy right now. We cut our budget this current year of $743,000 that our budget was cut. We did away with a lot of programs. Some of the people that left the sheriff's office, we did not fill those positions, and so. Right now, at this particular point, as I said, Sheriff Crum, he's developing a budget that someone is going to have to administer, and I'm sure he has the people's best interest in mind. But he also he will draw a line. He will draw a line as I would draw a line. We'll cut the budget. We'll turn back. As a matter of fact, we have turned over $500,000 in the last 4 years from our budget back into the Board of County Commissioners. This is not a spendthrift type of economy that we're in right now. And every way that we can save that dime and turn it back over so it can be used, the better off it is for the taxpayers.
Good to have you with us. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Preston.
Maurice Langston, our guest. You want to visit his